Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. On the heels of George Kambosos' latest win, his comeback fight, they are now talking about putting him in the ring with IBF champion Richardson Hitchins June 21st in New York City. Matias versus Hitchins in New York would do better business because Matias is his mandatory challenger and Matias is from the island of Puerto Rico. We all know there is a large Puerto Rican contingent in the tri-state area that if you're going to do a fight in New York for Richardson Hitchins, well, that should be the fight, not this. Nobody wants to see Kambosos versus Hitchins. We already saw another version of that fight in Kambosos versus Haney. Hitchins versus Kambosos would play out like Haney versus Kambosos played out. We don't need to see that again. The honeymoon is over for George Kambosos. There was a period where he was making a lot of money, perhaps more than he should, given his limited skill set, but credit to him for parlaying that Teofimo Lopez win into several high-profile paydays. The two Haney fights, the Lomachenko fight. Credit to him. But rumor has it that the ticket sales for his big homecoming in his last fight weren't big at all, that they only sold about 1,200, I think it was, and the rest of them they had to give away. They papered the house. Not surprising. When all you do is lose your big fights, you lost the two Haney fights, you got knocked out in the Lomachenko fight, what do you expect to be excited? I don't hate the guy. I admire George Kambosos' courage because he don't duck no smoke. But I gotta be honest, you do a fight between him and Richardson Hitchins in New York, and you're gonna have to paper the house again. You're gonna have to. What would have made more sense? George Kambosos versus Liam Paro in Australia, and Hitchins versus Matias in America. Hitchins doesn't want to fight Matias. Well, that's too goddamn bad, because it doesn't make no sense putting on fights that nobody's asking for. You're not going to make any money, and Matchroom needs to do better. Whether Richardson Hitchins likes it or not, a Matias fight in New York makes for a hotter ticket than fighting George Kambosos. Why he's poured so much energy into that fight, I don't know. I remember in an interview, he held off on giving Devin Haney credit for his undisputed run on the premise that he only became undisputed by fighting George. So what credit are we supposed to give you for fighting George all these years later? It's been weeks, it's been months of these two guys going back and forth on their social media in an effort to sell the fight. No doubts. The guys that Matchroom let go are alarming. You let Liam Paro go? I heard he's with No Limit now. You let Subriel Matias go? It's nothing against Richardson Hitchins, but the reality is that guy is not a ticket seller. It's not enough that he's a New York native and you're doing a fight in New York. You're gonna need something more, because that kid don't draw. George ain't gonna help him. I mean, I like Matchroom. You know, I love the Boots versus Stanionis fight, and some of the other fights they have and will have on the calendar, but this, the idea you're gonna put George in the ring with Richardson Hitchins in June, it's a waste of everybody's time. You don't need to do it. And that's about as much time and interest as I have in that fight. I'm not interested at all. I don't want to see it. I just had to take time out to say it. Don't waste your time on that one. Is it the way Paulie says it is? Is interest waning in a trilogy between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. I will admit this much. I would actually prefer to see Dmitry fight David next than Artur. Let Artur hang back, or let him fight Michael Eifert on the undercard for IBF interim status so that he can get the winner. Then let Dmitry settle up with David, making the way clear for a trilogy, because I don't think David would beat Dmitry. No, I think Dmitry would take David to school. The issue is that David is very much trying to A-side Dmitry Bivol, demanding that the location has to be where his team wants it, under their banner, and he's in no position to do that. So even if you had an Artur Beterbiev that was willing to stand down and step aside, and if Turkey didn't want the trilogy, and he wanted this instead, it still wouldn't happen. Because they don't want to play ball. They want to dictate to Dmitry where the fight takes place, under what banner. They want to A-side him. And I don't think Dmitry or Vadim Kornilov are going to go for that. Understand something. This guy already beat Canelo Alvarez. The Canelo you can't shut the hell up about. The Canelo you claim you've been chasing around for 2-3 years or however long it's been. He already beat him. He beat Zurdo. He beat Artur. He's undisputed. And now you think he has to concede home field advantage to you? He has to give that to you. I view the whole thing as a stall tactic from Team Benavidez's side. That's what I think it is. You don't actually want the fight or the environment to do one. You just want to wrangle a vacant title. I've said that a million times. So even if I agree with Paulie Malignaggi that I would actually rather see Dmitry fight David, it ain't gonna happen. And I see the angling that a new star might be crowned, that David might beat Dmitry. What the hell have you seen from David that would suggest that? Couldn't stop Caleb Plant. Couldn't stop Alexander Vosdik, both of which have been knocked out before. Couldn't knock out a 12-0 novice in David Morrell, and I knew that he wouldn't. I said he'd win a points decision because he don't knock people out anymore. What about David Benavidez's last run of fights tells you that he's the guy to beat Dmitry? What? You know, the PBC are in pretty good with the people over there at ProBox, and this seems like propaganda to me. Pro-PBC propaganda. Anti-Turkey LL Sheik propaganda. We talked about that in my previous video. The axe they have to grind with Turkey, and how they seem to be talking up a PBC fighter. You can do what you like. The reality of it is, the biggest money for David Benavidez as a light heavyweight, it's in Saudi Arabia. Propaganda or no propaganda. You don't fight Dmitry Bivol, you don't make a major payday. Not in this division.
Personally, I would never go to Saudi.
So then, at this point, what needs to happen to, Sampson, to make that fight with Benavidez and Bivol, in your opinion?
No, it will not happen because
You don't think it
I don't think so it would happen. I believe that if he doesn't want the fight, Monday, bring the belt back.
Why do you think it won't happen?
Because my understanding, the guy that he bring the money to the plate, he decide that he doesn't want it.
Yeah, but let's say Turkey did want it. Let's say he wanted to pay for the fight. David wasn't going to fight in Saudi anyway, and he said as much. More than once.
I feel like it'd sell more here, to be honest with you. That's the one thing they talk about, like Turkey al-Rashid, and they say, would you ever fight with them over there in Riyadh? But at the end of the day, all my fan base is here in Las Vegas. I'm a Las Vegas fighter, you know what I mean? I want to take advantage of this market because I've worked 11 years this is my first time having a freaking crowd like that, so I want to stay here.
So that is the reason.
Are you going to go to Callum Smith then?
This one possibility, or you say better in Las Vegas.
There he goes, trying to dictate terms to Dmitry Bivol, who already beat Canelo and already beat Zurdo, and he's undisputed champion, and he's supposed to fight where you guys tell him to fight.
T-Mobile, I love MGM.
If it does go to purse bid and the purse bid goes to them, then you guys would go to Saudi, right?
What is the reason that you say that?
Because it's a legitimate question and he's a reporter. He's doing his job.
No, I'm just thinking as to
So you think PBC, it doesn't have the money to pay? Everybody talking about PBC going out. PBC doesn't go out.
Then why'd they only do 5 shows last year, Sampson? The year before that, they did about 17 or 18.
This is our home, and we need to come with the money, we will come with the money.
If you had the money, I would think that you guys would be the ones putting on Erickson Lubin's next fight. and not Pro Box on YouTube.
If you had the money.
If you had the money, I don't think as many fighters would have left you as they've left you the last 1 or 2 years, because PBC fighters have been popping up all over the place on other sides of the street where they didn't used to do that. Jaleel Hackett and Richardson Hitchins were Mayweather Promotions fighters up until recently. They left Mayweather Promotions for Matchroom. Elvis Rodriguez left the PBC to go back to Top Rank.
Michelle Rivera left the PBC to go to Dimitri Salita.
Your fighter, Edwin De Los Santos, hasn't boxed in over a year, while you say the PBC has the money. They've got the money. So why hasn't he fought? Why haven't you gotten him a rebound fight yet? Why do you have him walking into a Keyshawn Davis fight on the top-ranked side of things if you guys have got money? Then get him a rebound fight.
Why is almost everything you guys are doing now behind a paywall? Almost everything is a pay-per-view.
What they used to do at the beginning of the year, right around this time, was release a comprehensive schedule of fights detailing the first and second quarter of the boxing year. Then in the middle of it, they'd release another schedule. You guys ain't doing that anymore.
Detailing what fights to expect in the third and fourth quarter of the year.
Addressing the rumor that the PBC is out of money. Well, it's very obvious that you're out of money. You used to do 19 shows on Showtime alone. You only did 5 last year. 2 of which were Canelo Alvarez fights, and now Canelo has left you for Turki El Al Sheikh. He went where the money is, where for some reason you don't want to.
Think about the Sportico highest paid athletes list as it pertains to boxers, this being a boxing channel and boxers being who we're talking about. What do the majority of those guys got in common?
The boxers on that list, the names you see, those guys have either already boxed in Saudi more than once, or they are going to.
And these are all guys that make more money than your guy.
So you want to sandbag it? You want to hold out? Go ahead. Pay-per-views are not selling like hotcakes in America, so if you try to put your guy out there again,
Go ahead, see who buys it.
and if you manage to wrangle an email title to become an email champion, congratulations. Now let's see how many pay-per-views that sells.
See what your email title is worth to the American boxing community. How many of them are going to show up and show out in the numbers?
You know, I actually think the content creators make more money from David than Sampson does. I ain't even kidding. I think the content creators that put him on a pedestal make more of a profit off of David than Sampson does.
But hey, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. This is supposed to be prize fighting. The biggest prize is in Saudi, but you don't want to go.
Okay, then don't. Elsewhere in the light heavyweight division, John Conte hails evergreen Callum Smith for giving mind, body, and soul. John Conte has praised Callum Smith's victory over Joshua Buatsi as one of the best of his career and urged him to follow it by winning a light heavyweight world title. At age 34, Smith would have been left with few options had he lost to the revered, previously undefeated Buatsi when they fought in February, but he instead recorded his finest result since retiring George Groves at super middleweight back in 2018. Smith held the WBA title at 168 until his first defeat by Saul Canelo Alvarez precipitated his move up in weight. After successive victories, he was then stopped by Artur Beterbiev in a fight for the WBC, WBO, and IBF titles, and he remained on the periphery of the championship landscape while Beterbiev and Bivol twice contested all 4 titles at light heavy. If after one victory for each of the Russians, a decisive third fight between them ought to be inevitable, a contest between Smith and David Benavidez, the division's next 2 finest fighters, would offer similar appeal.
It would.
There potentially exists a route to the title Smith insists is driving him to fight on, and one that, in the event of him succeeding, would ensure that he comes to rival Conte as the finest fighter Liverpool has produced. The retired Conte reigned as the WBC light heavyweight champion while at his peak in the 70s, and asked about the fighter in so many ways. Following in his footsteps, he told Boxing Scene, getting up there is tough. Winning a championship is tough. Defending it is tough. Then if you start on a level or you lose one, you go down a bit. Coming back again is even tougher, and this lad's done that. It's one of the best wins of his career. Getting up there, you're young, you're powerful, that's tough enough anyway, but you're on the way up. Then, when you get there, defending it is tougher, and then if you lose, you start going down. To come back, that can be a better win than getting there in the first place. He's got to get there now to win the title, to regain the title. He's come back at the top, going down and coming back. against another really top fighter, and that's just going to lift him. He's in a position to project himself into the championship again and win the title. Liverpool lad, great boxing city, football, boxing, the people there love boxing.
Do you see how different things are when you're not talking about an American fighter, when you're talking about a Callum Smith as opposed to a David Benavidez? No, Callum doesn't have an unbeaten record. He doesn't have his O intact.
But he's literally in the exact same position as David Benavidez, where David is WBC interim champion, Callum is WBO interim champion.
Benavidez versus Smith was a conversation for all of 15 minutes.
But if Team Benavidez has the audacity to try and A-side Dimitri Bivol, you don't think they turn around and do the exact same thing to Callum Smith? You don't think they do that? And the question is, do you think Callum would go for it? Do everything on their terms. Just bow down to them.
Bend over.
The kind of money it would take to bring Callum Smith to America, I don't actually think they've got it, being honest with you. Callum Smith over the years has developed a reputation for not fighting on the cheap. I've heard it said in some circles that that's a part of the reason he wasn't more active in the past, his financial demands.
So when I think about that, and I think of the current state of affairs at the PBC, Team Benavidez's shenanigans, I don't see Smith versus Benavidez happening.
I would sooner expect Callum to have a homecoming fight in Liverpool while he waits for the winner of Bivol versus Better Beef 3.
And what David's gonna do, I literally don't know.
Because the difference between them is one of these guys is likely to charge you $80 for his next fight, and the other one isn't. So if Callum gets out there and has a tick-over fight while he waits, it's no harm, no foul. Whereas David, since you insist...
Who are you gonna fight in your next fight that deserves my $80?
Because it doesn't look like it's gonna be Dimitri Bivol. Canelo Alvarez is otherwise spoken for the rest of the year. Who are you going to fight that I should pay $80 to see it? If you even do fight again this year.
He might not. He only fought once last year.
All of the backdoor shenanigans trying to wrangle a vacant title with no one formidable enough to defend it against. I mean, you're not going to lure Callum Smith to America for peanuts on the dollar, or Anthony Yard, or Joshua Buatsi, or any credible opponent.
Those Brits ain't scratching and sniffing. They ain't suffering. They make good money too.
Good enough that I don't think they're going to bow down to you. I don't think they'll acquiesce to any of your terms. Now, what could make any one of those fights possible is if David were willing to play ball with Turkey and fight in Saudi. I mean, if Turkey's money is green enough for Canelo, why isn't it green enough for David?
It's green enough for Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, Canelo, Inoue, Joshua.
But not David. Okay, have it your way then.